You ordered what?
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the Dean Callan Show. I don't know what I've done here, but I somehow have got these guys in the shot. How's that happened? Right? What is that? Meh, whatever. Oh, I just blinded myself. Anyway, welcome back to the Dean Callan Show. Today, as you may have possibly seen from the cover that I took most of my time today making, I'm going to make a 20th century. Right. I had a different plan for today's show, but plans don't always work out. And also, like, I spent a little bit of time kind of pondering, where does the show go now that we have an announcement from the government in the UK saying when lockdown's going to end. Now, I know that this show doesn't happen live on YouTube. YouTube's my favorite way to watch it because I can literally watch it through a PlayStation. Like that, YouTube for me is the easiest way to consume like media, right? So that's where I want to, I want to build the show for YouTube. So if people want to watch it on their TVs, if they want to watch it on their phones, like if you guys know no matter which way you want to watch the show, you can watch it. But ultimately, YouTube doesn't like have people's opinions scrolling up in front of you. There's like an episode of something and an episode of something and an episode of something. And it's like, you have to click on it or allow it to autoplay at the end, which you can just skip past if you're not interested in it. But it's kind of not, it's not as fake newsy. And I think scrolling through Instagram, through Facebook and other social medias can get a little bit like, I don't know, antisocial? Antisocial? Whereas like YouTube, for me, I learn shit from YouTube. I go on YouTube to learn shit. If I don't know how to do something, especially with all these gadgets, I just go on YouTube and somebody's got an instructions for it, right? Now, it occurred to me when I couldn't get a hold of Mitch for the second time, maybe the show needs to be at a different time, right? Like it's 6 p.m. People have dinner and shit. And when people start going back to bars, like when you guys start going back to work, right? I'm assuming everyone's a bartender. You're not going to want to be chatting live. So if anyone has any suggestions for what time of day you can afford to have an hour of your day taken out, let me know. My instinct is to cut back to just Wednesdays and Fridays. I might still try to do Mondays when everyone goes back, but I mean, there's no use doing it live if everyone's back. But ultimately, if you wanted to chat, which I love, thanks for tuning in, Des, right? You see that? If you wanted to chat and get involved with the show and have back and forth, and if I was going to be interviewing people, which is the whole idea of the show, learn from stuff, interview people, eventually they'll be able to sit here in real life. It should be good. We'll get some nice questions going, and you guys can ask a question that I can put on here, right? So would it be, okay, Austin, right? Would it be noon my time? Because if it was noon my time, it means that I could have people on the show from Australia, right, live. And I'm thinking if the Friday episode was like at a later time, it's probably not the best. I want to have a party with my family on Fridays. But if one episode was at one time live, another episode at another time of the week was at another time live, right? And they the live show went out at different times in the day, depending on which fortnight it was or which week it was, so that I could have people from, for example, on Friday, I have to pre-record Friday's show where I'm interviewing someone because they live in Singapore. And 6 p.m. is like 3 in the morning there. That's not really fair, right? If you have some suggestions, throw them on there and I will have a look. Because ultimately, ultimately my goal is to make it so that we can have a conversation. Because when I start getting, like, for example, the legend that is Zdenek Kastanek, if Zdenek's coming on the show live, I want to have an option for you guys to be able to ask questions, me to relay them to Z. If I get a master distiller or someone like that, it makes sense that it's during the day, our time, for them. And if it's not, I'll pre-record, right? So just let me know what your thoughts are. Now, 20th century cocktail. This is one of my favorites. I'm not gonna lie. I once ordered this. I'm not gonna tell you where. But I was kind of like, I was leading up to asking for Corpse Survivor number blue, as it's now known. But back then, like, don't think it even had a name. Not sure. But I was with Jacob Briers, right? And Jacob Briers lived through like 2 weeks of me drinking nothing but Corpse Survivor number 2s all the time. The reason for that was because I was in New Zealand, in Queenstown, in the Central Otago region, or whatever it's called. I don't know what it's called, but it's gorgeous down there. And the lemons that they had, I think they were like a hybrid of Mayer lemons or something. All the lemons they had, it was like the lemons had crossbred, which can happen with citrus. Citrus can crossbreed just by planting it next to each other, with some orange, right? And they were like sweet and delicious. There was very little sourness to them, which we were there for 42 Below Cocktail World Cup, which ended up costing people in the end, because the bartenders flew over from all around the world. When they arrived into Queenstown, they're trying to make the sours the way they make them at home, and like the lemons just were fruity and full of flavor, but didn't have the acid that they were used to. So their drinks were all coming up sweet, you know, because everyone puts citrus and sugar in all their drinks. Anyway, long story short, because of the lack of sugar in the 20th century, these fucking 20th centuries tasted amazing. It was just, they were the perfect lemons to make 20th century, 20th centuries as well, but to make Corpse Survivor number 2s, right? So, cut to me being in London. Just arrived in London. I go to meet Jacob Briers, right? He's in London. I literally got off the plane, went and got a SIM card, put it in my phone, called Jacob Briers. He's like, I'm at this bar. I go to the bar. I get there, and for old time's sake, I'm like, can I get a Corpse Survivor number 2? And I was excited. I probably spread it out way too fast. And the bartender, who was very talented, well-known bartender, was like, what? And then, I was like, oh shit, don't worry about it. Rather than just say what it was, I thought like, oh no, I now look like a dick because I've ordered a cocktail that's not on their menu, and it's not a recognizable classic. So I just look like a douche, which, bartenders do, right? So then to backtrack, I went to a cocktail that I thought they might know, and said, oh no, don't worry, I'll just have a 20th century. To which they were like really angry, because now in front of a whole bunch of people, I've ordered two cocktails that they're like, what are you talking about? And I think it was just a moment. Jacob Briers had to literally talk to the bartender and go, oh, no, it's okay. They're very similar drinks. He's just like this. Should have just ordered a beer, right? Speaking of which, I might order a beer at some point. Yeah, anyway, I will. I'm not tempted to have a beer. So I'm going to start by prepping, right? To make the, okay. In case I want to make an egg, like a cutout of this video, like how to make a 20th century cocktail. Take a chopping board, take a juicer, take a lemon, a jigger. You want Lillet Blanc, right? White creme de cacao, right? It's white creme de cacao. Like if you put dark creme de cacao in it, it's different flavors altogether. It's not like creamy vanilla flavors. It's more, you got the bitter dark chocolate flavors, which don't represent the drink. And then I'm going to use Boatyard Double Gin, because you know what? I've tasted this neat a couple of times since I've had it in the cabin, and I think it's fucking great gin. I want to see how it holds up, right? So, yeah, to make a 20th century, this is what you do. I shake them, start with a shaker, and put 1.5 parts of gin. I'm starting with the gin. I know I'm starting with the gin. I don't care, right? Boatyard gin, delicious. Next, I put, well, I'm going to put 1 part of Lillet Blanc. Let's see how this works out. Put that back in the fridge. Keep it nice and cold. I'm going to put 1 part of white creme de cacao. I literally started making it and realized, shit, I haven't made one of these in a while. What was the spec again? Meh. I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll start here, taste it, and see what it needs. Because it's my home bar, and I will make it any way I like. Right, so when I couldn't get a hold of Mitch today, I thought to myself, right, I've built a system. Oh, you've always wanted to know where I got the juicer? Yeah, you know what? I don't know how to do this, but I bought this on eBay years ago, and I've got an alarm for these juicers, and they haven't come back up again. But I'll tell you what I'm thinking. The next time I get someone who, like a brand or a drinks company of some sort that really wants to get a decent, solid piece of point of sale that they can give to bars or sell, I want to remake these because they went extinct quite a while ago, but they're the best. I love them. And I had about 8 of them at one point. And no joke. I was just buying every single one that came up on eBay. And then I gave them away. I've got that one left. I think I've got 1 more in storage with all my vintage cocktail kit that's in a very good condition, because this one went through the dishwasher at one point, and it's not food safe build. It's like aluminium. It's like aircraft. No, not aircraft. It's super soft aluminium. It's not designed for going through a dishwasher, so it's probably not by today's standard food safe. But I mean, if we were going to remake it, you just got to pull it apart, get the molds, and have a new one. Oh, this tastes great. So when I couldn't get a hold of Mitch today, I thought to myself, do you know what would be funny? Because the part of the reason I want to have other people on the show is because, oh yeah, my GP, wait till you see the straw. Dude, I figured out the straw problem, and because this bar has no GP at all. I don't charge people for drinks, so no worry about profit. No worry, none at all, right? I've figured out the straw problem. I've solved straws. I mean, turtles will rejoice for generations to come knowing Dean Callan single-handedly solved the straw problem. And not only that, I solved the straw problem in 2007, right? And I didn't even know there was a straw problem back then. That's how good I am, right? So let's put this in here. Whoa. I should have probably broken up the ice before I started the show, but you might have noticed the show went on late. There's a good reason for that. I was not ready. And everything that, I learn as I go. So I had to open up YouTube outside of my phone because my phone was ringing off the hook as I was getting ready for the show. So I opened up YouTube with my PlayStation, boom, boom, on there, and Googled YouTube did, how do I fix, one of the issues I was having, there's effectively a scratch disk that was full on my photo editing software. And every day I set up my camera, I take a photo of me doing something, pointing at a glass to make a cover. But I'm taking it on a massive camera and then shooting it across to Photoshop and then Photoshopping this every day. See that? Yeah, so I'm putting that every day. I'm making one of those and I'm Photoshopping it. And when I Photoshop it, this time Photoshop, the scratch discs were full, so I couldn't do it. Oh, right, 1 second. Yeah. Right, so scratch discs are full. I'm on YouTube. I'm checking out how do I fix the scratch disc thing. I find a video pops up. I'm still setting up the bar. Videos playing in the background, telling me how to do the scratch disc thing. I'm thinking to myself, shit, since I've got YouTube up, I could feed the YouTube videos into the show, and then rather than like me taste my own 20th century and like give tasting notes on it, I could like log into someone else's show, right? And then get their, oh, this glass isn't big enough. Jesus, I made way too big a drink. All right, let's get a sidecar going. Yeah, one of these guys. Right. I could get someone else who's made a 20th century on their YouTube channel and get their 20th century, but like their explanation of how it tastes as if they're tasting it, right? You get where I'm going with this. Right, so this one, I'm going to put a lemon twist. And because I want to see what it tastes like, I'm going to put a dash of bitters into that one. I did put a heavy dash of bitters. Whole new drink. So let me see what it tastes like. I would pay money for that. Right, now, let's see what someone else says when they taste it. This is going to be so much fun. Okay, ready? Now. Oh, no. All right, I just wanted to add my little video in there. So you guys, right, you can see here. I'm not sure if you can hear me, but let's see how this goes. Can you hear it?
So bright. You really get the gin notes and the lillet and just that touch of chocolate sweetness. Man, it just works with that lemon so well.
Can you hear it now?
Another round. Yes, that is wonderful. It just.
Ah.
Oh, and then the chocolate comes back after the lemon, and they do like a kind of dancing enough. And some drinks, you ever anything? If it's truly mouth-watering, I will like literally, in the literal sense, that your salivary glands on the sides of your mouth start to produce saliva. That's very appetizing, I'm sure. But it is a wonderful experience. Cocktail or food. This is that. This is a literally and truly mouth-watering drink. It is delectable. And now,
all right.
I'm imagining myself wearing a pair of vintage Persil shade.
All right. So having watched that, I hadn't watched that. I love that guy's channel. So I don't know his name, but it's called How to Drink. And he's not a bartender, but he has this wicked YouTube channel. It's like he's got a team of people. Whoa, the back bars. He's got a bigger back bar there. Looks like a different, and he's got monkey shoulder on his back bar. That's so cool. That guy's cool. Anyway, I wanna have like loads of followers on the YouTube channel like that guy. Also, could you hear if watch it later, right? Watch it back later. But when you hear his explanation, he's like, "This is wonderful and vibrant, and the lemon comes through, and the white chocolate," and like, he's like proper. He's proper explaining it. I've been doing this the whole time. I would pay money for that. Right? I would. It's a bit lemony. I could probably put a bit more white chocolate. Also, just so you know, I've decided that it's important for me to get this bar to a stage where it would be if I were bartending, right? Because if you remember the Rubik's Cube analogy that I made about bartender training, I actually, doing my WSET course with Hannah Lamphere and all the team that were there, I just love training and being trained and knowing all these gadgety like all the small intimate details of spirit production, fermentation. The only way for you to really commit all that to memory is to keep repeating it. And because I don't work in a bar, and I used to just repeat everything I was learning to everyone around me, because I don't have an option to repeat everything, I kind of like, I'm not retaining as much information as I used to. And I'm certainly not getting the opportunity to try as much stuff. The WSET course, we've tasted 60 different spirits. Well, mixed up between spirits, liqueurs, and vermouths. But 60 different products that we were asked to sit down, taste in a professional manner. I've finished the live part of the course. Taste in a professional manner, looking at the clarity, the mouthfeel, what characteristics you're getting from the nose, what characteristics you're getting from the mouthfeel. And honestly, it's life-changing. I hadn't really sat and done that so many times. Well, I hadn't done it before, really. I tasted stuff and said, this is nice. I thought about what flavors are in it. Oh, I like this one better. I thought about what flavors are in it, but I always thought about them from a point of view of what would I make with them and which people would this work for at a bar. Never really, if I was asked my opinion on this spirit, what would it be? So it's changed the way I think a little bit. And it's also reminded me of how important having a good trainer is. And if you want to do the WSET, I guarantee you, Hannah Lamphere is the person you want to go to. I don't know everyone else doing it, but I mean, I feel like I don't need to know everyone else doing it. Hannah's just so good. She's so personable and so down to earth and so real, yet so knowledgeable. Amazing, amazing stuff. Anyway, I'm on to this one. So that's the 20th century. That's how you make one. Apparently, oh God, what was the info? I think 1937, I got it written here, right? Just so I wouldn't forget to do it. 1937, C.A. Tuck, the 20th century cocktail. It was named for or after a famous train that went from, I think it was New York to Chicago, the 20th century train. In fact, it'll be on his video, now that I think about it. So this guy, right? Look at that. That's the guy that's got all the info. He'll have all the info on his show. I skipped through to where his drink mixing bit was because I knew he did really descriptive, like explanations. But yeah, he'll have it on there. Anyway, this has been fun. So if I was to make a riff on this, yay, I'll make it for you. So, great phrase. Okay. So anyway, I want to make one of these with mezcal, right? If you follow my social media, you'll see that the other day I was drinking mezcal. Now, I had a taste of this, I think, a couple of weeks ago on the show, or maybe I didn't. I'm not sure. Maybe it was Monday. Don't know. Anyway, I've now realized that sitting and analyzing a spirit, right? I was sitting and analyzing 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 spirits has led me to have a greater appreciation for just how good well-made spirits actually are. I've been really spoiled to sit in the cabin with all of this. I know from research what that's going to taste great. What a 15-year-old Solera, blah 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 blah. Yeah, okay, cool, rock and roll. I'm going to have that. Or if I read about, you know, a trusted distiller, for example, David Stewart is releasing a non-age statement, but from old stocks, very limited release, ton 1509. They're mixing, 20 casks together. These casks range from port pipes to sherry pipes, sherry casks to new oak to whatever, and they're, minimum 22-year-old. Like, David Stewart doesn't make bad stuff. And if it's a limited release and it's a couple of £100, I look at it like, right, if I get in a taxi from my house to go to central London, that's £25. Cha-ching. Then I get out of the taxi and I go into a bar and it's £17 for a cocktail and I have 5 cocktails. That's 85 more pounds. So I'm already at £100. And then I move to the second bar and I have 4 cocktails there. I'm now looking at like 250, 300 pounds. And then I still got to get home. If I buy this bottle, I won't even leave the house, right? But I don't buy £10 bottles of stuff and then sit and compare it to this really fancy stuff that I've bought, and I don't go searching out, like, let's say, kind of average. I'm not even that big on craft stuff, to be honest. Like, if I need to be given a taste of something that's new and craft and someone else has recommended, like basically like a basic consumer, because I don't have a bunch of people coming in here asking for my opinion, right? I'm buying for myself. And doing the WSET showed me that by analyzing things and breaking them down, you get a whole new appreciation for them. And there's a range from cheap stuff to expensive stuff. So this, when I tasted this blind, didn't know what it was, fell in love with it. So I just want to kind of announce that I absolutely love this stuff. Don't know who makes it. I hope they're lovely people, because I really do like putting my efforts and money back into people that know, you know, I know. But since I don't know these, I hope they're lovely people. But anyway, on the bottle, I don't even know how to pronounce it. I'm not even going to try. Someone that might know can do that. Mesquite smoked mezcal. So, there you go. Look at that. Ooh, in focus. So it's 100% espadín, 100% agave. It says first distillation in copper, second distillation in copper. So I'm assuming they have clay pots of some sort. 45% ABV. Now, the one we tasted in the class was 43% ABV. So they've got batch numbers that are in different colors to the rest of the outlying stuff. And you've got a label with a slash and the of 1121. So they knew how many bottles they were going to be making. Obviously, they produce the labels. And then they've got a separate stamp for the number. So I get the sense someone's sitting there stamping these. The norm is 0363X. It's batch, like limited batch handcrafted of 785 liters. Like this is it feels like legit handcrafted stuff, which, like I said, I'm always wary of. I don't just go buying like craft stuff because just because you're small doesn't mean you're good. But this is phenomenal. And I want to see how it holds up in the 20th century. I started saying that I wanted to get the bar set up as if it was a bar. The reason for that, I've decided I really do like getting involved, doing some form of training. I like doing events and stuff like that. So I want to start a bartending competition. It's been in the works for a long time. It's been in my head for a long time. But I want to start a bartending competition, as I've said before, with the build thing, where, you know, people have to make drinks from scratch and build them up. Ooh. What's Singani 63? What's Singani 63? Right, so mezcal and the chocolate notes should work. I think, anyway. Right? So last one was a bit too lemony, so I'm going to put slightly less lemon in this one. Oh, this is going to taste so good. Right. Notice I'm not putting the mezcal in first in this one. Don't want to mess with it. All right, so we got this. Now, for me, I think tequila and gin are kind of interchangeable. Like, there are a lot of the floral notes, a lot of the flavors that you get in tequila translate across to the botanicals in gin. But this, well, mezcals in general, especially when you start looking at like the clay pot still stuff from like, you know, middle of nowhere, doesn't necessarily translate to tequila. You know, it can be wildly different stuff, and I know that. but that putting that in the 20th century started from I think there's a 21st century which is tequila based. I can't remember, but there is a tequila based version of a 20th century in the same sense that like a London Calling or Corpse Reviver number 2, you make them with tequila. I'm assuming they work with mezcal. Haven't done it before. They're great with tequila, so I'm assuming it'll work. Agave spirits, and this is more meaty, so it should work really well with the chocolate notes. I figured, you know, win or lose, it might be a good idea for me to just spew out my thought process about how I bartend, so that I get some feedback, especially if I want to go back to bartending. It might be good for you guys who've been helping me out, keeping sane, to give me some feedback and be like, Dean, no, dude, you're getting too old, too fat, too slow. Or like, dude, like your drinks are shit. Why don't you mix something with like pea syrup or something? Jokes. You know, give me some advice, some cocktails that you think would be cool for me to play around with, and I will do so. Diogo, I love that you just posted the history of the 20th century on there. How do I add that? I want to add to broadcast. Boom! Look at that! I can add to broadcast! Damn! How was I not doing this before? So cool. Right, let's try this. I know I'm going to go over, but whatever. Nobody is perfect. All right. Jizzy. Why are these drink glasses so freaking small? Oh, that one wasn't quite as big a variance as the last lot. Twist. Right. Now, I know this is going to taste great. Oh. Fuck, that tastes great. All right, I think this tastes great, but is it a waste of like really amazing mezcal? Like, did you need to mess with the mezcal? Maybe if someone just totally loved 20th century, or like maybe they love 20th century, they drink gin, and you're trying to let them know how amazing a mezcal is because someone next to them is drinking mezcal and they're smelling it and they're not into it. The only situation where I could see it working is like, you like gin? Yeah, I do. You like 20th centuries, right? So like, do you drink gin neat and warm? No, I don't. Of course not. Cool. So you don't really drink gin. You drink gin cocktails, i.e. 20th centuries. So instead of drinking mezcal warm and neat at room temperature, how about I make you, right, a mezcal 20th century, And then you can try it in an environment where you're comfortable. Like we've just tweaked your 20th century a little bit from gin to mezcal, and then that person would get a kind of an easier entry into tasting mezcal. They'd literally have their 20th century, and they'd be like, okay, that's the gin version. I'm ready. Right. Let's hope they do that. Right. That would be the only reason to do that, other than trying to fill in some time on Dean Callan Show. Right. So anyway, competition. Want you to tell me what you think. Right. I went out and I bought some stuff. All right, so the stuff I bought decks of playing cards, but these are decks of playing cards with nothing on them, right? The reason I'm putting this on the show prematurely is because I feel like after the last couple of days, I need a kick in the arse. I need a community of people to tell me this is shit idea, or Dean, that's a great idea, let's do it. And I've noticed that like a couple of the people that follow the show have offered to help me out with stuff while they're not busy. You're going to get busy again soon. So while we're not busy, all I need is your thoughts, right? We'll do this together. So this is my thought process, right? You got a card shuffling machine like they use in like the casinos and poker and stuff, right? And you take a deck of cards and you put the deck of cards on the card shuffling machine, and you need a battery. That kind of sucks. I took the batteries out. Damn it. Anyway, with batteries, you press a button, shuffle, 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 right? And then out of here, you've got, right? Shuffle, 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 deck of cards, right? Now, imagine for a moment, on the deck of cards, you have like, let's say 50 cards, you got 10 different brands, right? And the brands have like, you know, there's a Bombay one, and like, it could be, let's say it's a gin deck of cards, right? There's a Bombay one, Tanqueray one, whatever, right? Whoever wants to play ball. And on this side, right, you have questions. And then these go down. The judges they've been shuffled, put 3 or 4, whatever it is, cards down. And the person on this side, full setup bar, has to press, oh yeah, that's what I forgot. Don't worry about it right now. Chess clock, right? Chess clock is here, and you got 5 minutes on your chess clock, and the other person has 1 minute, right? So 1 minute is your timeout, your stoppage, whatever it is. Click go, chess clock. You got 5 minutes. 4:59, 4:58. You're turning this over. It's a question about gin. You answer the question about gin, you get a point. You turn these ones over. You're answering. You get points. You keep turning. You keep answering. You get points, right? Now, for everything you've turned over that you haven't answered correctly, you lose points, right? But ultimately, that just got wet. Ultimately, that's the knowledge, the quizzy part of it. But you have another deck of cards with cocktails on it. On this side, you might do the same thing with branding so that we can, you know, build up the prize money. And on that side, it just says Manhattan. And it might have the recipe for the Manhattan, right? On the quiz cards, it'll say the question, and then in very small writing upside down, it'll say the answer, right? Now, the trick is, you get these cards all printed up, and they've got 50 questions about gin, 50 questions about tequila, 50 questions about rum. You could build them infinitely. You might start with 50 questions. Pack 1, 50 mixed questions. Pack 2, 50 mixed questions. But eventually you'd build it up until there were enough packs that you've got loads of different questions. And then the first 50 cocktails are the 50 cocktails you would expect a person who's walked into your bar to know how to make, right? The first one might be the old fashioned. The second might be the martini. The third, I mean, I said martini to try to be nice, but really, I think Manhattan. Old fashioned Manhattan, martini, Negroni, margarita, like a Tom Collins. You see where I'm going with this, right? Now, that day that I was talking about how many times your hands have to touch stuff. So if you're looking here, if we can build it out so that the competition comes with a set layout, there's a set distance to where the cards are, there's a set distance to where the ice box is, there's a set place for the shakers, a set place for the sink, a set place for vodka, gin, light rum, or I mean white rum, Blanco tequila, bourbon, scotch, cognac, or brandy, right? And then down here, I've got my rye, I've got my dark rum, cachaça. I've put Pimm's in there because I started to run out of ideas of what I wanted to have here. But I kind of thought a Pimm's cup needs to be in the top 50, right? Just let's revive the Pimm's cup, guys. What happened to the Pimm's cup? But then again, every single competition that we did would need cucumber and a whole bunch of other shit. Maybe do we get rid of Pimm's cup? Do we put Pimm's cup over here? Right? I don't know. I've now got, this is actually a British cider brandy, but I'm thinking Calvados, Aquavit, and here I don't have it now, but Pisco, right? So you get where I'm coming from. So standing here, you can reach for the Aquavit, make the Aquavit cocktail, reach for the scotch, like you don't have to move. These miniature bottles are smaller bottles. So before, if you look back, this was where my white creme de cacao was, largely because I make tons of grasshoppers in here and I make a lot of 20th centuries. So I have that there. Do you make 20th centuries in your bar? Does anyone ever order the things? Like, is it a normal classic? Because to me, it's like a staple, but to you, maybe no. So question is, what should be of 6 and 6 going that way, 6 and 6 going that way? Looking at this, at the moment, I've got orange curacao, like the dry orange curacao, followed by Campari. Well, I can't talk about that. Fernet Branca, Maraschino, coffee because I'm putting an espresso martini in there. I've got Drambuie, and then I've got sugar syrup. In this case, I've got my citric because I'm still figuring out what to do with that. I got my white creme, my absinthe because that's used a lot. But I'm thinking, do I make the absinthe actually just smaller bottle in a different spot? Green chartreuse because I use it all the time. Levita Tropica Liqueur, right? You know what? It's new, but it's all the way up there with all those things that you've just seen. That's how good it is, right? So at the moment, that's what I've got. My question to you, if you want to interact, you don't have to. You're hopefully still watching. What needs to be in here, right? So that if you want to be in this competition, the reason I wanted to have multiple decks of cards made with as many brand sponsors as possible on them is because brands need return on investment. And ultimately, very few competitions give them real return on investment. But if you, the person at the end that's going to compete in this competition, the person that's most important in the competition, because we want people to get better, don't mind that they're branded up, and the brand doesn't mind giving like £1,000 to be the gin in it. You know, there's a lot of products here. That money can go into ensuring that everyone that's part of the competition gets paid to turn up on the day and manage it and run it and judge it, which is important in today's world. The bartenders get a fucking massive prize. Legends bartending in 2000, 2001, which I'm hopefully, I found all the Legends competitions are on YouTube now. That was $50,000 US for winning a bartending competition, right? Christian Delpish won that shit. Like, that's life-changing amounts of money, right? So why aren't there mixology competitions with life-changing amounts of money? what do you get from winning a bartending competition? Like, cool, you get the respect of your peers, but like, you know, if you watch the movie Cocktail, Coughlin's like, I've been famous for years, show me the money. You know, like there comes a time when you've got to pay the rent and take care of your family and, for example, make it through a pandemic. How many people had the savings? Might be worthwhile us looking at things where there's a return on investment for the bartenders putting their effort in. Now, you click here, they get shuffled. They come out, you got your chess timer, you got your quiz questions, you got your cocktails. Cocktails are obviously worth more than a question. It could be the case that making a cocktail and having it up on here by the end of the 5 minutes, like a dispense bar, gets you 5 points. The question's worth half a point or 1 point, because ultimately these quiz packs would be available to buy. No, I'd love it if you didn't have to buy them, but we'd just basically cover the postage, especially if they got branded. If they were branded, then the brands could hand them out. But if you could have the packs already ready, you don't need the shuffling machine. You could shuffle them after work, do 5 minutes of practice, like pulling these out. You're going to learn all the answers to the questions. You're going to learn all the recipes to the cocktails. They're on there. It's a training program whereby if we had a £10,000 prize for the person who can make the most cocktails and answer the most questions, get the most overall points without deductions in 5 minutes, could be cool, right? Yeah, your time is never compensated in competitions. And these days, I feel like the competitions kind of are very one-sided. The people running the competitions have a lot of say. The people running the competitions get a lot out of it. Even the competitions where they're actually putting a lot into it. Even if they are absolutely trying their best to do the best by the bartenders, which most of them are, they're still brand companies running them, and brand companies to justify an expense, you need to show a return on investment. And if bartenders run our own competition, and we give the brand companies a return on investment, but because they don't have to invest in the whole competition, every brand that gets involved, smaller brands, like, can be involved. Anyway, I just spewed that out because I kind of felt like if I do, and I get some interaction, and you guys be like, this is a good idea. Also, think about this. If you were setting this up, and you set up the bar the way it's meant to be set up, on a day where everyone comes in a bit early, right, or late after work, right? You make a punch. Everyone's drinking the punch. You got these set out so the person standing behind doesn't know what they're about to walk into. You're having a beer. Put water in all these bottles. Water with Coca-Cola in an empty one of these. You're good to go. It feels real, right? Could be a great training program where the more you train, the more opportunity you've got to win a prize of £10,000-20,000. Anyway, I really want to run this competition, but I'm lazy. And in here, it's all planned out. It's even like remember I was talking about the name, the Fast and the Curious, right? Pretty good. So I'm going to keep banging home this competition thing, and anyone that wants to help and get involved. The more sponsorship we can get for it, and when I say sponsorship, I mean sponsorship where the person sponsoring wins and we win. When I say we, the people running it and the people that with the big prize at the end, right? If we can put this all together, we make sure anyone who's working on it gets paid. We make sure the person that wins and the runners up get paid, and then we see how it goes. Anyway, that's kind of all I had to say. I'm going to play an old Mitch's Minute because I just missed Mitch because he didn't wake up today. And then I'm going to end the show. Thank you all very much. Oh, file not found. Locate file. Screw you. Why would you do that to me? Did I delete the Mitch's Minutes? Oh, that's not fair. All right. In that case, no Mitch's Minute. I'm going to call Mitch right after this and find out what's going on. Thanks for supporting. Thanks for all the comments. And yeah, that's the end. That's the end of the day. I'm gonna go drink some beers.